Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come on down, 'cause we got ourselves a ball club, the Mets of New York town. Give 'em a yell, give 'em a hand, and let 'em know you're rooting in the stand. Come on and meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town, of New York town.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets at Rob with some breaking news here for you guys. The New York Mets have signed another lefty in their bullpen, Jake Diekman, lefty reliever that was formerly of the Tampa Bay Rays and was traded during the season last year from the White Sox. And the Mets now have two lefties in the bullpen, Diekman and Rarely, two lefties, which I thought was very, very, very important for this New York Mets bullpen. I'm sick and tired of having one lefty in the bullpen, and this is good news because of the fact that as soon as Wandy Peralta went off the board, there was a lot of concern, a lot of questions from Met fans. Are they going to go out there and get another lefty that they were interested in? And we haven't really heard any news about Diekman related to the Mets. And this is another reason why don't listen to all the rumors or lack of rumors when the Mets are going to try to get somebody. We knew they were looking for other bullpen pieces. They were interested in Wandy Peralta. Peralta got a multi-year deal, 4-year deal for a middle reliever, which is absolutely insane. But the good news is Diekman is the type of lefty that is very different from what Brooks Raley is throwing out there in the bullpen. You look at it here. He was with Chicago and Tampa Bay. Overall, had a 3.34 ERA in 63 games. 50 of those games was with Tampa Bay, and that's when he had the 2.18 ERA that you see on your screen in 50 games. And he pitched 45 in the third innings with the Tampa Bay Rays. He figured something out with the Tampa Bay Rays. Again, it's very hard to compare or at least look at the stats from players from the White Sox, because that was a complete dumpster fire and a disaster and a toxic environment. I think a lot of the players basically all checked out on the White Sox, and you saw almost even players that you believe are good players on that team had terrible seasons with the White Sox. So Diekman has a four-seam fastball, sweeper, changeup, sinker, cutter. And what I like, and the difference from Raley, is that he throws in the high 90s, 96, 98. He even got up to 99 last year. So he's a hard-throwing lefty. He throws his sweeper a lot. He throws his changeup a lot, his sinker occasionally, and his cutter occasionally. But that four-seam fastball from the left side, throwing high 90s, between 96 and 98 miles an hour, is very, very important because it's very different from what Raleigh throws, which really is like, what, a 92, 93 type of fastball with his slider and everything like that. He's more of a finesse type of pitcher. But one thing that is very interesting about Diekman, you think, oh, lefty specialist. Well, he's very good against left-handed batters, 229 average in 22 and 2/3 innings last year, but he is absolutely dominant against right-handed pitchers with a 151 average in 34 innings. So he's seen more right-handed batters than left-handed batters. And you know why this is a good sign-in? And look at these numbers, is the fact that with the 3-batter rule, you're not afraid of throwing Jake Diekman in any situation because he gets righties out as good and even better than lefties. He's very good against lefties. He's excellent against righties. And I think that's important to realize, is that even Raleigh is good against lefties and righties. Better against lefties, but good against righties. Jake Diekman is a guy that is dominant against right-handed batters, and he's very good against left-handed batters. And I like this signing. Again, Wandy Peralta, you can name any lefty you want. As long as the guy is competent and he's shown signs of really, really good pitching, this is what Diekman did. He was very important down the stretch for the Tampa Bay Rays. He was one of their best relievers coming from the White Sox. And you could say, oh, well, Tampa Bay always figures these guys out. Yeah, that's true. But sometimes these pitchers, and most of the time, these pitchers that figured things out and learned something, or whatever they analytically done in Tampa Bay, figured things out. And I looked at it when he was with the White Sox. He was throwing a ton of off-speed and breaking balls. Wasn't throwing his fastball as much as he was with the Tampa Bay Rays. So what does that tell me? That tells me two things. Number one, the White Sox did not know how to handle him and probably didn't care. And number two, the Rays got to him and says, you got a powerful fastball, 96 to 98 miles an hour. Use your fastball more, challenge the hitters, and set them up with the off-speed and breaking ball type pitches. And that's when he got better. So he increased his fastball rate to over 85%, throwing it the majority of the time, and using his other pitches less of the time to set up those batters as well. Had over 50 strikeouts, which is really nice to see. And I really do like the fact that I wanted a lefty. I liked Stanek. I liked, other relievers that we could have got. I wanted a lefty. Honestly, lefties are a dime a dozen. There's lefties all over the place. It's rare that you're going to, it's not Josh Hader, but it's a guy that shows a little bit difference from the left side in the bullpen than Raleigh, and I think that's important. You got a hard throwing lefty and you got a soft tossing lefty in Raleigh, and that works well. And again, look at the numbers. Look at the splits against left-handed batters, 229 in 22 and 2/3 innings. Against right-handers, even better with a 151 average in 34 innings. And I love that. I like the versatility because you're not afraid of putting him in any situation because you don't have to worry about the 3-batter rule with him. And even the same thing with Raleigh. Raleigh was very good against right-handed batters, so you were never afraid if there was a couple of guys that they could have pinch hit for, or if you want to get that one lefty up, but after that lefty there's 2 righties, you were safe with Raleigh going in the game. And the same thing with Diekman. So you got 2 lefties in the bullpen that are drastically different. Raleigh is the finesse pitcher. Diekman is the hard throwing power arm from the left side. But they both are very good against lefty hitters and righty hitters. And I think that is important. And now if you look at it, you got Diaz, you got Lopez, you got Raleigh, you got Ottavino, and now you got Diekman. And then everybody else can fall into place in the back end of the bullpen where you're really going to see him. You might see him in a situation where a starter doesn't go deep, like a Drew Smith or a Reed Foley or a Bickford, guys like that even the other guys like Adams, all those Sulcer, all the guys that they signed on minor league deals that could make the team. These are guys that are going to be back into the rotation guys. Some guy, one or two of those guys might be a long man. And this makes the bullpen better. You got two solid lefties. Adam Ottavino is perfectly fine because you don't need him in the 8th inning. You can use him in the 6th or 7th inning. You can use Raley in the 6th, 7th, 8th inning. You can use Diekman in the 6th, 7th, or 8th inning. So many options for Carlos Mendoza in the bullpen now. And I do think they are very, very hopeful and confident that Jorge Lopez, whatever they believe that he still has in the tank, he is a powerful arm. I think he's going to be fine. I think they really believe that he can be the setup man and the bridge guy to Edwin Diaz. If that's a 1-2 combination that you don't have to worry about, now you have a nice deep bullpen that the Mets did not have in 2023. And now you're not too concerned about the starting pitching going deep into ball games, even though you like that. But now you got multiple guys. You didn't just have Ottavino and Robertson last year that you trusted in your bullpen. You had nobody else. And the problem was you only could use Ottavino in the bridge to Robertson because nobody else was stepping up. Nobody else was really good. Raley was good, but you never seen him as that setup guy. And I think that's important to realize. So this is going to be a quick stream, guys. Just wanted to bring you the breaking news. Jake Diekman, I'm still looking for the contract information. I haven't seen that yet. If you guys seen it, please let me know so I can just say it on the stream. But I know that I'm assuming it's going to be a 1-year deal. No, easy. That's not true because Jorge Lopez was 2 years ago was a closer and had over 50 saves for the Orioles. So he is a guy that could be a setup man and a guy that can close every now and then, right? Same thing with Jake Diekman. Jake Diekman is another one. And again, I think the most important thing from the 6th inning through the 8th inning is matchups. I can care less who the setup guy is. It really doesn't matter because if there's a couple of lefties that are dangerous lefties that are coming up in the 8th inning, I want one of the two lefties going in the 8th inning. I just don't want an Ottavino or Jorge Lopez because that's the spot they're in. No. I'm not worried about that. The whole point is that matchups are going to be important. If you noticed anything with analytics, matchups are important. You're not pitching just in that inning anymore. It's not the same anymore like it used to be even 5 years ago, where you were the 8th inning guy, you were the closer. Well, even though the closer is still the same, but you were the 7th inning guy, the 8th inning guy, you're the lefty specialist. That's where it's different now. It's where matchups are key now. Yeah, easy. I understand that. I get that. But again, there was a ton of potential there. And he's a guy that, again, you see these guys all the time. And I always go back to the Brewers and I always go back to the Yankees. A lot of these guys that might have had one good year, maybe even 2 good years out of 5 or 6, they find it again. Different scenario, different team, different ballpark. A lot of things can change in a reliever. Relievers are very fickle. 1 year they can be great, the next year they can be bad. Other than closers, middle relievers are very up and down. It's very rare that you're going to get a non-closer that you can trust every single year. It's very rare. There's a few of them, probably a handful, not much more than that. The fact of the matter is, Diekman is a hard-throwing lefty who is better against right-handers than lefties, but he's actually very good against lefties, and you don't have to worry about the 3-batter rule. You don't have to worry about certain parts of, matchups aren't really that important with even Raley and Diekman because they're both good against both sides of the plate. The Mets didn't have that. Yeah, okay, easy. That's fine. But you know what? I guarantee you said the same thing about Diaz, who is very good in Seattle. One of the best closers in baseball, came to the Mets, couldn't get anybody out. I guarantee you said that a couple of years ago, right? So it's the same thing. Again, we're talking. So, I mean, Ottavino, people don't like him, but he had a good year last year. Now, the problem was with stolen bases, and yes, his walk rate ran up and his strikeouts went down, but he still stranded a lot of those runners that got on base and that stole them bases. Edwin Diaz didn't pitch last year. Why do we just assume he's going to be good? You got to understand that as well. This is a solid reliever who is very good against both sides of the plate. It gives Mendoza options. Yesterday, the Mets had one lefty option. That's a problem. Right? Now, your bullpen gets a little bit deeper. Now, you might not like the names, but if you look at the numbers, they're not bad. No, I'm not. But I'm saying 3 years ago, when Diaz first came to the Mets and couldn't get anybody out and blowing leads left and right and blowing saves, yet a year prior and a year before that, he was one of the best closers in baseball, and some Mets fans didn't even want him on the team anymore. That's how bad he was. And now he's one of the best closers in baseball. It's not comparing, but we act like relievers don't have bad years. Aaron Loup had his best year of his career with the Mets with a 1.4 ERA, 1.2 ERA. He went to the Angels. He had near a 5 ERA. And that's the whole point. Okay, you want Fujinami, that's fine, but why? Fujinami didn't have a good season last year. Why do you want him? You see the point? You just brought up a name that did not have a good season last year. Why do you want him? You're going to give me an example 2 years ago when he was good. That's the point. So you're giving me a name that wasn't very good. And that's the issue. I'm still trying to figure out what's the contract looking like. All right, let's see. So you wanted Fujinami, right? That's let's see. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to figure out where the hell. All right, hold on, guys. Hold on. I'm trying to figure this out here because it's kind of like, what the hell? Hold on. So you wanted Fujinami last year, right? He had a 7.18 ERA. Oh, okay, talented arm. Diekman's a talented arm. He throws hard. He has many pitches, and he's good against both sides of the plate. You want Fujinami, who has a 7.18 ERA last year. He has a talented arm. Jorge Lopez has a talented arm. He actually pitched a little bit better than Fujinami last year. So you just made my point. You want Fujinami, you know why? Because you heard of that name before. That's the point. Yet he had over a 7 ERA. That's the guy you want to bring in? Or do you want guys that had a 3.5 ERA or a 3.3 ERA? You want to bring in guys that have a 7 ERA and hopefully it's good. Yeah, he could throw 110. I don't care. The fact of the matter is he was throwing 103, 102 last year, right? And he had a 7 ERA. So what's the issue? So that fastball, as hard as you can throw it, they can hit it right back at you just as hard, if not harder. I'm telling you, people just want names that they heard of, yet they don't look at the numbers. You want Fujinami because you heard of that name. He throws hard, and he said he's a talented arm. Lopez, Diekman, those are talented arms. They're hard throwers. You can't tell me that Fujinami is better than the two guys I just mentioned because of the fact that Fujinami had a 7 ERA, over 7 ERA. I mean, I agree with you. But again, a 4.85 ERA is not very good. You know what I'm saying? Like, look, I don't care what name you bring in here. Minus whatever middle reliever you want to bring in here, there's a pretty good chance that it's either going to be good or bad, regardless of what they did last year. Because I can guarantee you there's a pitcher that did well last year that is not going to do well this year and vice versa. Look, you want to bring in Fujinami, go ahead. The more arms, the better. Because that's more likely that another one's going to actually turn out pretty well. and you have a backup plan, and you have other arms that could do the job. I'll bring in Stanek too. Why the hell not? The more arms, the better. But the same argument that I gave the last stream with everybody was like, I want Stanek. I didn't want Ottavino. Yet Ottavino had a better year overall than Stanek. You know why people talked about Stanek? Because 2 years ago, when he was one of the best relievers in baseball with the Astros, guess what? He was pitching really well, and that name popped in people's heads. Because it's not a new face and people have heard of him, that's why they want him. But don't check the numbers. Okay, but Jorge Lopez, those 99 to 100, not much of a difference. If you don't, again, he has 104 miles per hour fastball. Great. Why did he have a 7 ERA? What's the problem? I guarantee you it was straight as an arrow. Diekman, those 96 to 98, a lefty. Uh-oh, my cat's still going through his little cold. You okay, Shay? You like Diekman? Huh? He's looking at me like, are you crazy? Listen, I think the fact of the matter is, what the Mets did in the bullpen was get power arms that have a lot of guys that throw sliders, those sweepers, a couple of off-speed breaking ball pitchers, and that's important. I think a lot of difference in pitchers with, like I told you, Diekman and Raley are lefty guys, but one throws extremely hard, the other one doesn't. That's a good. I like that difference of lefties. I'm still trying to find out. I still haven't found the years yet. I'm assuming it's 1 year, but again, I don't want to say it is and it's not. I'm refreshing. Easy, you don't have to, but he was one of your best relievers in 2022. Again, listen, would I be okay if Ottavino wasn't in this bullpen? Sure, but you can't look at the facts and the numbers and say he wasn't good, because he was. Now, stolen bases are a problem, and he's got to lower that walk rate. But even with the stolen bases and walking more batters, he was still able to strand runners. And you can't tell me a reliever with a 3.21 ERA isn't a good reliever, because he is. Yeah, Robert, he was sneezing a day or two ago, and his eyes were watery, so I had to take him to the vet and give him medication. He don't like the medication. He loves his food, but he knows the medication's in there, and he's not happy about it, so he complains. And his stomach's a little, the medicine kind of messes with his stomach, but it's going to help his cold. So that's what it is at the moment. So I'm just trying to keep him warm, keep him happy. Yeah, Todd, really, look at it. The Mets wish they had arms. And what you didn't put in there, Todd, was Bickford as well. And that's a lot of options there. And there's a lot of different ways you can go about it. And I think the matchups are going to be more important than just putting guys in roles. Like Jorge Lopez, yeah, it seems good to put him as the 8th inning guy. But if there's 2 lefties out of the 3 that are coming up in the 8th inning, I'd rather see one of our lefties based on the numbers. I like matchups. Matchups are important to me. That's why I wanted 2 lefties, because I always felt like after Raley, if you had to use him in the 6th inning in a big spot, 7th and 8th inning, you're screwed if that situation comes up again. Yeah, easy, but I understand that. He does. But guess what? He strands that runner. You can't tell me, and you can give me any name you want. You gave me Fujinami, who has a 7 ERA. People talked about Stanek, and I'm going by last year. Right? I'm going to go by last year's numbers, because you can't tell me that Fujinami's a good pitcher when he had a 7 ERA last year. I can care less what he did 2 years ago. I was making a point about Jorge Lopez when he said he's not an 8th inning guy. Well, he was a closer. So he can be that 8th inning guy. Again, I go by last year's numbers. People wanted Stanek and said, why not go after Stanek over Ottavino? Yet, look who had the better numbers. The fact of the matter is, Stanek also put people on base. He had a high walk rate and a low strikeout rate, and didn't strike out as many batters as he did the prior year. You know what the difference was? Stanek couldn't strand those runners. That's why he had a over 4 ERA. At least Ottavino stranded those runners more often than not. Because if he didn't strand those runners, he would have a 4+ ERA, but he didn't. Again, this is a situation where last year, Ottavino was your 8th inning guy. Yet, he overall numbers was fine. But he's not going to be in that role. You know, occasionally, of course, depending on who you got to give rest to and stuff like that. But if he's going to be your 6th inning guy and sometimes 7th inning guy, it's not that big of a deal. Especially when you got many options. And this is what I like about the bullpen. Because whatever you want to say about David Stearns, whatever you want to say about this offseason, I know one thing, and it's been a proven fact. 6 out of his 8 years, his first 2 seasons in Milwaukee as the GM, he was just starting to put his own players that he wants, putting his own philosophy in. 6 out of his 8 seasons as GM, he was top 5 in bullpen ERA and in top 5 in pitching ERA. Specifically, we're talking about bullpen here. He knows how to put bullpens together. Because I always say this. Besides Williams, who's their closer in the Brewers, name me 3 other relievers from the Brewers. I guarantee you can't, unless you're a Brewers fan. The fact of the matter is that Stearns knows how to put a bullpen together because he's proved it over and over again. It's not a mistake. It's not luck when you do it year after year after year in your top 5 bullpen ERA in baseball, not the National League, in baseball for your bullpen. There's something to that. Sean Reed-Foley, he sucked, but he also was injured too, and he came back from that injury. So he's another one. Well, why don't you like him? He throws 98. But let's not kill Stearns here for a guy who's proven time and time again to knowing how to build a bullpen. You don't just fall into luck 6 out of 8 years as a GM for one team and have a top 5 bullpen in Major League Baseball. You don't just fall into that luck-wise. You know, if it was 1 or 2, I would say, okay, maybe he just got, lightning in a bottle there. But when you do it 6 out of 8 years, and the 6 out of the 8 years was his last 6 years, when he started to implement his players and his philosophy in the organization, that's when they were top 5 bullpen ERAs in baseball. And nobody can name 3 relievers from the Brewers that's not named Williams, who's the closer. And prior to that, Hader. A lot of the times, you look at it every year, guys that you never heard of have good seasons in the bullpen. And I'm not saying they just count on that. But again, almost every one of these guys have track records. And that's also important. I like the philosophy. Yeah, but easy. But no. That's not fair. That's not fair because Milwaukee, New York, it doesn't matter. If you're in the 8th inning, 9th inning, 7th inning trying to hold a lead with runners on, there's pressure. I don't want to hear that nonsense. That's stupid. Because, well, guess what? Is Drew Smith going to be good in Milwaukee? Probably not. You know why? Because he sucks. You can't just do that because, you know what? Then the Mets and the Yankees should have get no player then. Because if that's the case, if you're going to worry about pressure in New York, don't sign anybody. I mean, no, I didn't say it doesn't matter. But don't tell me that the 8th inning pressure situation with runners on, it still doesn't make sense. So don't sign anybody and just bring up guys from the minor leagues and pray it works out. It doesn't make sense. It does not make sense. Because why sign anybody? Brooks Raley pitched in Tampa Bay. Did you watch Brooks Raley? Adam Ottavino was worse prior to he was worse with the Yankees, came to the Mets, and was good. Really good in 2022. Struggled a little bit last year, but was still a pretty good reliever. Now, could it blow up in their face and nobody can pitch in New York? Well, yeah, it's possible. But good stuff and good pitching, and there's a track record with a lot of these guys, right? I just don't get it. Did you want, Edwin Diaz pitched in Seattle, baseball Siberia. Did you not want him to come to the Mets? Do you want him pitching? Like, we talk about this all the time. Like, then don't sign anybody, don't trade for anybody because they can't handle the pressure in New York. If you're gonna build a team and worry about can they handle the pressure in New York, then you're never gonna sign anybody and you're never gonna trade anybody. I'm sorry. If you're in the 8th inning with runners on and you got a 1-run lead, there's pressure. Now, of course, different moments, different areas, different ballparks are pressure. Absolutely. But I can tell you that being on the road with the fans cheering and you're the road team with runners on and they're down a run and the fans going nuts, guess what? That's pressure. Right? We act like a guy like Diekman never pitched at Yankee Stadium as a road player. Like, come on. Like, so don't sign anybody. Easy. Don't sign anybody. Don't sign anybody. It doesn't make sense. You know what? JD Martinez, I don't know if he can handle New York. He only played in Boston and he played in the Dodgers. Who cares? It's not New York. Don't get him. Not every player is mentally soft. And if you now, and I'm supposed to brought that up. Yeah, well, again, don't sign anybody. It's just silly to me that, oh, well, you don't know how he's going to perform in New York. You don't know how anybody's going to perform in New York. Well, how about this? Do you want to sign Walker Buehler next year or Corbin Burns? I guarantee you will like them, right? They never pitched in New York. Do you want to sign them? Or you think they're going to fold under the pressure of New York? Then don't sign them. Then bring back Michael Wacha. Bring back Rick Porcello. Shit, throw me out there. Like, it's just silly to me. It is. Like, then don't get anybody. Don't get anybody. If you want to get Corbin Burns next year, you want to trade for him at the deadline, or you're going to say, no, I don't want him because he can't. I don't know if he can handle the pressure in New York. If you're going to do that, you can do that with every player. But there's some that can handle it, some cannot. But you can't be afraid to make a move that can make your team better and worry about, in game 86 of the season in Citi Field with 40,000 fans screaming their lungs out to hold a lead. You can say that about anybody. I could have told you that Diaz couldn't handle the New York pressure 2 years ago. But guess what? He can now. Is there an adjustment period? Absolutely. But doesn't mean it can't. I understand that easy. It does shrink some guys. But just because that can happen doesn't mean that it's going to happen to this guy or that guy. Now, there'll probably be an adjustment period. I understand that. It does shrink some guys. But again, you can't be afraid to make a move because of that. Because you'll never sign anybody. Like, it's just, again, do you want Corbin Burns on the Mets? Or are you afraid that the pressure is going to get to him? So don't even bother. Get the 7th best guy on the list in free agency next year. Because he might be able to handle it. It's just stupid. It really is stupid. Like, that always gets to me with that stuff. Like, is New York a different animal? Absolutely. But you can't be afraid to make a move based on the what if scenario of the pressure. Because for all we know, shit, Jake Diekman might love that pressure. Thank you, Matthew. I appreciate it. And yeah, he's a good pitcher. Look at his numbers. Like, no, easy. You're not stupid. No. I understand what you're saying about the pressure. It's an adjustment period. It eats people up. But the way you're putting it, don't sign anybody. Why sign anybody? Because the pressure can get to them. You could say that about every single player that has ever been signed or traded to New York. But you're not going to make that move because if that's the case, no, of course not. Jason Bay was one of the best players in Boston in the playoffs, and the Mets sign him. Boston's a big market, a crazy fan base. You would never think that he couldn't handle New York by the way he performed in the postseason on the big stage in Boston. How can you predict that? Now, it ended up being the case, but you could say the same thing 3 years ago about Edwin Diaz. He looked like he couldn't handle New York. Anytime there was a pressure situation, he was terrible. Now he embraces New York. Lindor, the same thing. The first half season of Lindor was a disaster. He couldn't handle it. The booze, it got to him. But at some point, he embraced it. Now, not every player can do that. I agree with you. But that doesn't mean that a Diekman or anybody else, a Lopez, maybe they can't. But some of these guys thrive off of that pressure. You don't know until you see it. But you can't be afraid to make a move based on that because you'll never sign a player. It would be a waste of time then. Let's see. Hold on. All right, guys. So we're going to finish up the stream here. So the breaking news, Jake Diekman is a New York Met. I'm still trying to figure out. Sonny Gray didn't. Yeah, I understand that. But for every Sonny Gray, there is a Garrett Cole. You know what I'm saying? Like you can say you can give me any player that didn't make it in New York, and I can give you another player that has. So we're gonna go back and forth. We can be here for 42 hours saying this guy didn't handle it, this guy could. We can go back and forth. Right? It's a pointless conversation to have until that guy either shows it or doesn't. We don't know. Now, will it be in the back of your mind? I mean, I don't want you to say in game 6 of the season, he blows the lead in the 8th inning, and you're going to say, oh, I told you so. And then the next day, he strikes out the side and keeps the lead. And then I'm going to say, you told you so. So the argument for both of us is like, yeah, we're both right. But you can't be afraid to make a decision for your organization just based on that. Because if you do, you're going to waste your time, no matter how good the stats are. All right, guys. So Jake Diekman is a New York Met officially. I would love to know the deal. I'm assuming it's a 1-year deal because it doesn't seem like the Mets want to give him anything like that. But we'll see. Let's see. Chance when Diekman signed his official, Mets quite possibly could be done for the offseason. He also posted they offered pro. All right, so the Martinez is coming out with a little more information. The Mets offered Peralta 2 years with a 3rd year option, worked 8 to 10 guaranteed. Martinez, Soler, Belt are unlikely with unless a significant price drop. So the Mets did make him an offer of more money, but not the years. So 2 years, 8 to 10 million. I think that would have been a good deal. So yeah, Juan, I think that's wrong. I think the bullpen gets a little bit more longer and it has more depth. And that's important because you got a lot of arms you can go to. And again, I'm not saying it's a great sign. That's idiotic. But when you got Diaz on the back end and you got multiple guys you can use in any situation, because I was looking at Diekman, he pitched in the 7th a lot, pitched in the 8th a lot, pitched in the 6th a lot. So he's a guy that pitches in many different types of innings. He can be a bridge guy, be a 7th inning guy, 6th inning guy. That's important. I would love to actually. Nope, that's not it. Like, why are they telling us what the Mets offered Peralta? I don't care about that anymore. I don't know, guys. I still haven't seen it. I still don't see it. Diekman turned into a much more fun. Blah blah blah. Yeah, guys, I have no idea. So, I'd love to tell you what the contract is for Diekman. No idea. Because it didn't come out yet. Yet we're finding all the reports now that the Mets offered a 2-year, $8 to $10 million deal to Peralta, and obviously he took a 4-year deal for similar money per year. So I don't know why they're talking about Peralta when I would like to know the Diekman contract, but that's okay. Yeah, I'm trying to check it out before I go. I'm going to check one more time because I'm trying to refresh, and they're giving me Peralta like I care what the Mets offered when he's not a Met. Like, I just don't care. Let's see. What? I don't care about Peralta. This is ridiculous. So it was obvious with the Martino article that the Mets were trying for Peralta. They thought the 2 years, 8 to 10 million was sufficient, which I agree with for a middle reliever. And right away, when Peralta signed, they pivoted to the next best lefty on the market, which is Diekman. If you look at the overall numbers, it's true. So they got the next best guy, and I think that's fine. So again, there's no details yet on the contract. Even if it is a 2-year deal, about around 4 or 5 million per year, I'm perfectly fine with that. Diekman's going to help this rotation. The second lefty, which I thought was always important, I talked about this since the beginning of the offseason. 2 lefties in the bullpen, specifically 2 lefties in the bullpen that are 2 different spectrums. One throws extremely hard. The other one is a finesse pitcher. And I think that's very good for the New York Mets going forward because 2 lefties is better than 1. Mendoza got options going into 2024. So we'll see what the Mets do next. Maybe they're done. Maybe they're not. Are they going to wait for the price to drop even further for a Martinez or a Soler? They clearly don't mind getting another bat, but it has to be at their price. So if it drops further enough, maybe they actually swoop in and sign one of the bats. That would be an interesting offseason, and I would like to get people's opinions about that if they do sign a Martinez or a Soler and they fall into the lap. All right, guys. All right. Hold on 1 second. All right, guys. So, Diekman is a Met in the Mets bullpen now. The contract details haven't come out yet. I apologize for that. I was hoping while I was live it would pop up, but we found out that the Mets offered 2 years, $8 to $10 million for Wandy Peralta, which really I don't care about anymore because he's not a Met. So, with that said, thank you for tuning in to the Mets breaking news right here on Talking Mets with Rob. Jake Diekman, Met contract details to come eventually, I guess. But we know he's a New York Met. Mets got the 2 lefties in the bullpen. Are they done? Maybe they are in the bullpen. But if the price drops far enough for a bat, they might just swoop in and get one of the bats. So wait and see. 2 weeks away until pitchers and catchers. Happy February. Baseball is upon us. Everybody have a good day. Let's go Mets. See you next time, guys. Mets signed Jake Diekman contract details to come very, very shortly, hopefully on X. Have a good night, guys. Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life because the Mets are really sucking the ball.